Indira Gandhi National Open University presents a program titled Continuous and Comprehensive Evaluation as part of its certificate program for professional development of primary teachers. The course code for this program is BESL 057.
Hello and welcome to this program of School of Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. In this program, we will discuss about various issues related to continuous and comprehensive evaluation. To discuss on this, I have with me Dr. Vandana Singh, Reader, School of Education. Welcome, Dr. Vandana.
Thank you so much.
And Dr. Niradhar Dey, Assistant Professor, School of Education. Welcome, Dr. Niradhar.
Thank you, Dr. Gaurav.
And I am Gaurav Singh, Assistant Professor, also from School of Education, IGNOU. From a very long time in our schools, we are assessing our students' performance by using the examination. And most of the times, many of us are trying to prepare our students for better performance in examination. We all are aware of the fact that education is considered as a process for all-around development of a child in all dimensions, but hardly our evaluation take care of these aspects. Our traditional evaluation system has evaluated children's academic aspects only, not the behavioral outcomes in terms of various aspects. This has created a mismatch between our educational expectations and our educational aspects. To cover up this mismatch, the concept of continuous and comprehensive evaluation has been introduced. To elaborate in detail on various dimensions of continuous comprehensive evaluation, we have organized this discussion. To begin with, Dr. Vandana Singh, please explain the concept of CCE.
It is now mandatory that a CCE scheme should be implemented for each child till the completion of the elementary schools. But it is often seen that CCE is just being implemented in a way that it has just taken a shape of compiling the data or keeping children's record rather than integrating the assessment with the teaching learning process as an essential part of CCE. This is happening only because most of us are still having many misconceptions in our mind about the concept of CCE. Therefore, it is important for us to stress upon the various components of CCE. Now, if we talk about CCE, it has got three terms in that. The first C stands for continuous, the next C stands for comprehensive, and the E stands for evaluation. Now, let me come to the first term, that is continuous. When we say something is continuous, it actually emphasizes the continuity of an event. In this aspect, if we look into CCE, it emphasizes that the evaluation is a continuous process rather than a combination of isolated events. Thus, it should be built into the total teaching learning process and it must be spread in the entire academic session. Well, when we say that it must be spread in the entire academic session, it just means that you as a teacher has to assess all the children keeping in mind the behavior of the child, keeping in mind what the child present knowledge is, keeping in mind the various teaching learning methodologies which you will be adopting. Thus, it does not mean that you should assess all the children all the time, and it also does not mean that you need to make an elaborate record of child's progress, which many of the teachers are doing. So that is why there has been a lot of burden nowadays on teachers that they are busy with the record keeping of the children's record, which is not the meaning of continuous assessment or evaluation. Let me come to the next term, that is comprehensiveness. It implies that there should be an attempt to cover all the different aspects of personality beyond the academic ones. When we say different aspects of personality, it means that it must include the evaluation of the skills, the qualities, attitudes, values which a child has. See, what we were doing earlier was that the focus of evaluation was only on the academic part of the child. That means how much a child has learned in EVS or in language or in mathematics. The other domains of the personality, that means how the child carries the values in the class, how he or she maintains the discipline in the class, how the child gets along with the peer, was totally neglected as if it was not an important part of the assessment. Therefore, this term of comprehensiveness, or this term was introduced, that the evaluation must be a total evaluation of the child personality, including the academic and so-called non-academic aspects of the child.
Does it means that child should be promoted whether she learns or not?
Yes. Most of us feel that after the implementation of the CCE, it has become very easy for a child to be promoted because we just have to put grades against some kind of a qualities or the indicators. But if we look into the real spirit of CCE, it says that every child must get an opportunity to learn through the process of teaching and learning, and the child must get a regular feedback and support from the teacher whenever is required. This means that if the child is making any kind of a mistake, a teacher must be there to regulate or monitor the strategies to help the child so that the child improves their learning. And when the child will improve their learning, which is our ultimate goal of teaching learning process, the issue or the situation of assessing a child or giving a child a pass or a fail mark will not arise.
When teachers practice CCE in school or in classroom, they often come across two terms. One is formative evaluation and another is summative evaluation. So I request Dr. Niradhar Dey to please differentiate and elaborate these two terms, that what is formative assessment and what is summative assessment.
Both formative and summative assessment are the part of continuous and comprehensive evaluation. To differentiate formative and summative assessment, we can differentiate in various aspects. Just like when we talk about the purpose of formative assessment and summative assessment, the main purpose of formative assessment is to know the progress and mastery of the students on content taught. And we conduct summative assessment just to know the overall progress of the student and for final certification to the student. The use of the formative assessment and summative assessment, we can say formative assessment conducted continuously during the instructional process, starting from the first day of the instruction, and it continues till the end of the course or the program. Accordingly, summative assessment conducted after the completion of the program, that is terminal in nature. Then you see, for conducting formative assessment, we can conduct different types of tests, just like formal and informal classroom observation, unit test, monthly test or examination, then quarterly or half yearly test. For summative assessment, it is a type of annual test at the end of the session, or a terminal, or you can say semester, at the end of a semester. And we use different tools and techniques both for formative assessment and for the summative assessment. You see, for formative assessment, a teacher can adequately use observation, checklist, interview, debate and discussion, classroom presentation, narration, telling anecdotes, inquiry and project, demonstration, maintaining portfolio, questionnaire, rating scale, written and oral test with the objective, short answer type and long answer types of questions. But for summative assessment, mostly written examinations are conducted. Then let us come to the scope of formative assessment and the summative assessment. You see, for formative assessment, immediate feedback and high scope is there for further improvement and achieving mastery on the content. Again, we should remember one other type of assessment, that is diagnostic assessment. Here there is a scope of formative assessment to show a path for diagnosing the difficulties of the student and accordingly to eradicate it. So it is also a part of formative assessment.
Dr. Dey, teachers often said that they are using these techniques from earlier also, but sometimes they confused that how CCE is different from their old practices. So how CCE is different from the traditional approach?
We cannot say that we are not using varieties of activities, tools or techniques in our earlier practices, in traditional evaluation system. But definitely the present system is something different. Traditionally, assessment was not a continuous process. Examination or the test were conducted twice or thrice in a year. It was not frequently we are not conducting. As it is now, It is a part of teaching learning process. We are not filling earlier in the traditional assessment process. All aspects of child development like co-scholastic and life skill areas, we are not properly covered. Mostly the tests were written type. The activities were also not properly credited or graded for final certification of the student. Traditional assessment strategies were not connected with enhancement of learning of the students. Rather, it was creating a type of burden, fear and phobia for the students towards the test. It was also encouraging rote memory and cramming for the students without proper understanding of the concept. Means these are the, you can say, some of the limitations in our traditional system of assessment. But in CCE, you see the present practices, assessment of the students' progress continuously and comprehensively, as Dr. Bandana in the initial discussion she has already started. All the aspects of the child development, it may be scholastic, it may be co-scholastic, life skill areas, personality development are well covered. Varieties of tools and techniques are used for assessing different aspects of child development, as you have highlighted. Means here which tool we'll use for assessing which ability of the students. That is the main focus in a continuous comprehensive evaluation. Then formal and informal classroom observation was ensured. It ensures proper credit and grading system to each and every activity conducted, and equally it also contributes for the final certification of the student. Students realize that assessment is a part of learning. It enhances for better learning and it goes simultaneously with the teaching learning process. Means your assessment is not a separate process. Rather, it goes hand to hand simultaneously with the teaching learning process. It discourages the fear and phobias, rote memory or cramming, and a last moment study before the examination. So it is in CC, these things are not happen. The next is on the other way, it involves the learners to realize their own development and to enjoy the process of assessment. Here you see enjoyment is the most important thing in every teaching learning process.
What I get from Dr. Niradhar Day's response, that when CCE is implemented effectively in the classroom, a lot has to do by the teacher. So Dr. Vandana, I would like to ask you that what role do you expect a teacher has to play while implementing CCE in the classroom?
See, when you say a teacher has a big role to play in implementing CCE, you are correct. But teacher is not the only one who has to implement the CCE. The other people around the teacher, that means which includes the administrators, the community members, the child itself, and also the peer group, they are also the part of CCE. But yes, I will focus my answer on how a teacher must implement the CCE in the classroom. But we should not also forget that CCE it itself cannot be implemented properly if other stakeholders are not actively involved in implementing it. When we look at CCE as a process, we will find that a teacher has to first identify what is the expected learning outcome. So in a way, a teacher's responsibility will be to identify the main points, that means the levels, the learning which has to take place in the child. And how can it be done? It can only be done when the expected learning levels will be ascertained. So that's the first task of the teacher. The next task is that when the learning levels are being identified, the teacher has to now identify a suitable teaching learning strategy. How it will be linked to CCE? I am saying identifying a suitable teaching learning strategy. By that I mean that the continuity of the evaluation has to be maintained there also. Now, for example, if you have to teach a child, say about a particular concept, you will first ascertain at what level the child is, and then you will match the levels of your teaching accordingly to that level. So that is important. And also, while identifying the suitable teaching learning strategies, you have to also see that those teaching learning strategies have to be a mix of so many strategies. It must include quizzes, brainstorming, peer learning, inquiry. When I say these many strategies, so you have to be very, very careful in identifying those. The next important thing, that after the teaching learning process is over, the teacher has to collect the data regarding what the child has learned. So that data, again, from where it has to be collected? It has to be collected from the parents, from the peers, from the other teachers, from the administrators, and from the child itself. It should not only focus from the recorded data of the child observation, which we are doing in the class. So this is another task which a teacher has to do. And finally, the teacher has to report the data. Now, most often it is seen that the recording of the data and the reporting of the data, there is a total mismatch. What we are doing is that we are just giving grades, and just in front of the grades, we are giving a statement which actually defines that grade, and it becomes our evaluation. It is not a true spirit of CCE. CCE says that the entire personality of the child must be reflected when you are reporting the grades or when you are reporting the learning levels of the child. So therefore, as a teacher, your role is just not starts from expected learning outcome. It will not end till you do the proper reporting of the learning which has taken place.
What I get from the answer of Dr. Vandana Singh, that she is talking about that a teacher has to assess a variety of aspects of child personality. It means a diversity is required in the assessment. So I would like to request Dr. Niradhar De to explain briefly that what are different formats or tools or techniques a teacher can use for bringing diversity in the assessment.
For bringing diversity in assessment, a teacher can use varieties of formats. First we'll discuss about the formative assessment, what format can be used. Then we'll come to the summative assessment. In formative assessment, teacher can observe the students in the classroom during teaching formally and informally and take some decision about that student. Can apply peer evaluation strategies as Dr. Vandana highlighted here. Then individual and small group presentation on selected themes, issues or concepts. Can use rating scale, checklist, questionnaire and interview according to the situation, the nature of the activity. Can use debate, discussion, demonstration, role play and a type of dramatization. Can encourage the students to do some inquiry, problem solving and project. Both oral and written format can be used. Objective short answer type and long answer type questions can also be used for formative assessment. Informally, the frequency of formative assessment is an integrated part of teaching learning process, but to make it a formal practice, it may be conducted end of a chapter, end of an unit or a month, quarter, half yearly, etc. as you have discussed earlier also. Comprehensive format of assessment practices which include child's cognitive, affective and psychomotor development and further scholastic, co-scholastic, life skill and personality development should be encouraged. Then for summative assessment, a teacher can use the format, mostly written and oral examination can be taken. Varieties of questions can be included, taking objective, short answer type and long answer types of the question. Then practical activities on selected content can also be conducted.
So I think in this discussion with the help of Dr. Vandana Singh and Dr. Niradhar De, we have touched upon the initial points and the basic issues of continuous and comprehensive evaluation, that what is CCE, what is formative and summative assessment. We have discussed that how a teacher can bring diversity in the assessment, what is the role of the teacher, which a teacher has to play while implementing CCE in the classroom. And I think that our listener will focus on this discussion and will get a cue to deliberate and discuss more in details, to search more in details and practice and experience its beautiful experiences in classroom. They will be benefited themselves as well as they will help the children to learn by themselves. Thank you, Dr. Vandana Singh. Thank you, Dr. Niradhar De.
You were listening to a program on the topic Continuous and Comprehensive Evaluation. The content coordinator for the program was Dr. Gaurav Singh. Audio recording was done by Parvesh Kumari and Archana, edited by Sadan Lal and produced by Reena Boro. This is an IGNOU EMPC presentation 2014.